Here, you're ready for your dose of reality. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another action-packed action adventure here on the Dr. Quack podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Quack.
I need to modify next time what I tell you. Just because this wasn't 1995, this was worse than 1995.
But it wasn't 1995.
I'm the important one, Mr. Mayhem, and oh my God. One of the big four here, the big four pay-per-views that WWF talks about. Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and WrestleMania. And we got a huge mountain of turd ball. I think the Cuyahoga River caught on fire again.
It wasn't that bad, was it?
SummerSlam 1996. Yes, it's not 1995. Yes, on paper this should have been better than it was, and boy was it not.
I was a man of my word. Just remember that.
So I said I need to be a little more clear next time to you.
But yeah, let's start out with this one. SummerSlam 1996 at the Gund Arena.
Yeah, the Gund Arena was fairly new at this time. It was a nice venue. It's been a nice place. Cleveland actually is a decent city as far as, you know, they got a sports team, they got football, they have basketball, they have baseball, they got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Canton, which is not very far away, is the Football Hall of Fame. So Ohio has a lot to offer. And I think afterwards they almost pulled the plug on inviting WWF back, and this is what they got.
Yeah, on commentary, we got a trio here. We got Vince McMahon, Jim Ross, and Mr. Perfect.
I will say this, Mr. Perfect was not at his superstar's best. He was actually somewhat quiet, contained, and calm at this time. Maybe his back was really bothering him at this time.
I think it could have been that. I think they were trying to let Jim Ross start taking control.
I think so, too.
No Vince, cowboy hat here.
Yeah, and Vince, I've always said Vince is kind of a decent ring announcer, underrated. If this is the stuff people saw and remember from Vince McMahon, it's a good thing he started pulling himself off TV.
Oh, yeah. And our interviewers were Todd Pettengill, Doc Hendricks, and even had a Kevin Kelly spot in there.
Yeah, it was a pre-filmed spot for Kevin Kelly, but he was still on there. I'm one of the few people who actually liked Kevin Kelly's interview style.
Okay.
The Pettengillis, he actually was sedate this time. I think he was just about gone or just about doing the Coliseum home video stuff, so he was about off television. Doc Hendricks never been good, so he was normal.
It went over like him being a manager of the Hardys.
Oh, yeah, and our sponsor, this is the time when we had some odd sponsors.
Oh, yes.
Stridex Super Maxi Pads, which it wasn't for women, it was for cleaning your face. But they called it the Super Maxi Pad.
Yeah, there's that. Howard Finkel doing the ring announcing.
We got one. We got a good thing so far.
There we go. Mike Chioda, Jack Doan, Earl Hebner, and Harvey Whippleman in the refereeing. Last time we talked about Harvey Whippleman, that was WrestleMania 8.
Yeah. Downtown Bruno Lauer, Harvey Whippleman. He actually started out as a referee, and then they discovered he could talk, and he became Downtown Bruno. He did a decent job with this one match. The match was stupid, and we'll get to the one he was in. But all the referees did a good job based upon what they had. Well, except for one. But we'll talk about that later, and it's not Earl's fault, but it is Earl's fault.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's get started with this because we had the opening match. Owen Hart with Clarence Mason taking on Savio Vega.
Well, sort of Clarence Mason.
He was out there.
Well, he came out there later. Jim Cornette managed the British Bulldog, Owen Hart, and he also managed Vader. And because they were putting over how much Cornette was focused on that, Clarence Thomas came walking out there, and they had a little spat later, so I don't know, I don't remember at this time if they had a feud or what was going on with that. I don't really care, they didn't explain it very well.
Yes, this was pre-Nation of Domination.
Yes, there you go. This match was actually decent. Owen Hart, although he kind of halfway through, I think he got bored and then he woke up again because there was a short period of time where I think he was ribbing somebody. They say it was a rib where he quit selling. So he kind of did that a little ways through. Savio Vega looked good here in this match. I think they both took this match kind of seriously. Good setting of the table, decent action, good storytelling. I went 2.5.
I went a little higher. I went 2 3/4 stars. I thought this was a great opener. This was a great setting of the table. This is what you want in an opening match. I loved how the referee just couldn't see him pull off that cast and blast him in the face at the very end.
Yeah, that was Doan. Doan was looking right at him, but didn't see it. But at the same time, when you rewatch the angle in slow-mo, it looked like he just gave him a regular punch. So we can buy it. We can buy it. We know the ref is in on it, but at least it wasn't super horrible. It wasn't blatant. It was, okay, maybe it was too quick to catch, so I bought it.
But you're forgetting my favorite part of this match. It was after the match when we got a John Bradshaw Layfield Hawk over there, Justin Hawk Bradshaw sighting.
And a Zeb Coulter sighting.
Zeb Coulter, Dirty Dutch was out there yelling at Vince McMahon.
Well, they yelled at Vince McMahon. They yelled at pretty much everybody. Basically what happened was Savio and a very short-lived blip in the WWF radar named Freddie Joe Floyd, who I forgot who he was. I had to look him up, and that's Tracy Smothers, by the way.
Yes.
They had defeated Hawk and somebody else, I don't even care who it was, in a tag team match, and Bradshaw was mad, and Zeb Coulter came down there because he was the manager, and they didn't talk about it again for the rest of the show, so I'm not going back to try and figure out what was going on. I didn't care about him until he put on a white cowboy hat and started calling himself JBL. I barely cared about him in the APA. I definitely didn't care about him with long hair.
Well, you see how the man feels about me. Attacking Savio Vega as he was getting carted off the aisle there with one good shot, and then it looked like, oh, what do I do next?
Yeah. Yeah, the boomerang from hell. Love you, Outback Jack.
Oh, man. Let's move on here. Yes, the tag team titles, fatal four-way here. Actually, four-way elimination match here between the Smoking Guns, Billy and Bart Gunn, with Sonny. The New Rockers, Marty Jannetty and Leif Cassidy. The Godwins, the Hog Farmer, Henry Godwin and Phineas Godwin, with Hillbilly Jim and the Body Donnas, Skip and Zip. Yeah, was this overbooked?
Where do we begin unbucking this? God, this thing is so horrible. Editor, I get it. I don't want to talk about this match. All right, so let's start with the New Rockers. They brought Marty Jannetty back. He had a decent match in the Intercontinental title that he held for a short period of time. So they gave him a 1-year contract. And he talked him into doing the New Rockers with somebody who's probably the most abused and underutilized person in all of professional wrestling history, Al Snow, and they called him Leif Cassidy. At least he wasn't Avatar at this time.
I am shocked they never made a team with Leif Cassidy and Aldo Montoya.
That shocks me too, but he wasn't good at Avatar, he wasn't good at Leif Cassidy, but you give him a styrofoam head and he became good.
Yes.
Then we get the Body Donnas, Skip and Zip, who are a team I've never, ever liked. I've never been a fan of either one of them. But Chris Candido had a legitimate neck injury, so they put him out there to protect him but still say he was there. He never once got involved. And Zip, who was Dr. Tom Pritchard, who was just as horrible as an executive as he was as a ring announcer and referee. Then we got the Godwins. One of them later became Naked Midian.
Yeah, we did get Naked Midian here. That's great.
We're still about 3 years away from Naked Midian. 3 or 4 years from that, thank God. With Hillbilly Jim, the Godwins were god-awful. They were horrible as the Texas Hangman. Mark Canterbury and Sean Knight, or whatever Knight his first name was, I don't really care. And the Smoking Guns had now turned heel because Sunny had done what she does best and went, oh my God, this team is horrible, I want something better. And this match was WCW booking at its finest. There was so much garbage going on, and oh, by the way, we had a wrestling match. This thing was as corny as WWF wrestling on Saturday mornings. The order they went out, the Body Dominants were eliminated first because Zip got his toenail clipped and he fell down. And then the New Rockers got eliminated. And then finally the Smoking Guns eliminated the Godwins. And it was 1 star. I've given you all the action you care about. This thing was a botch fest. This match had no organization, no skill. This was Bash at the Beach 2000 on steroids.
Yes, and to let you guys know, this was a 3-hour show, and there was 7 matches total. We are on match 2.
We're getting ready to go into why they were 3 hours long.
Yeah.
Because after this, Vince McMahon, trying to build some public interest here, we got a 22-minute segment about the WWF wrestlers doing things around Cleveland, Ohio. The first one was a carriage race versus the mass transit race, which was the Godwins in the mass transit taking on the Smoking Guns riding in a carriage.
Yeah.
Then we had them, this was actually nice to see. This part I didn't mind too much. The painting of removing the graffiti, trying to clean up Cleveland, because in the 80s, Cleveland was a very crime-ridden city. In fact, the Cleveland Browns actually moved out. Part of it was because of how much crime was there, which caused their viewership to go down and their people that went to the games down. So that one I didn't mind WWF doing. And then there was some other stuff they did. It was just kind of So that was 22 minutes long of WWF patting itself on the back. You have anything else to say about it?
Yeah, I went 2.25 stars on that entire match fiasco. I thought that, there was some good comedy spot there. It was good when Hillbilly Jim was working outside. I enjoyed that, with him and Sonny working their magic. I know Sonny, was trying to come out there and be a good manager and try to do right, try to interfere in the matches correctly. But, yeah, it wasn't that great. I'm actually going 2.25. It wasn't phenomenal.
No, it was not.
No. Speaking of which, now we'll go into another great match. Psycho Sid taking on the British Bulldog with Clarence Mason.
Babyface Psycho Sid.
Babyface, yes, the master and ruler of the world.
And the crowd started cheering him mostly because Kevin Nash was so god-awful, they were hoping Sid was better. Not much, but he was better. This match, neither one of these guys were great sellers. This match was sloppy, not much selling. There wasn't a whole lot going on. I cared more about the Jim Cornette and Clarence Mason shoving match than I did the rest of this match. 1.5.
Yeah, I went 2 stars even on this match, only because Cornette came out there and had his argument with Clarence Mason. And this is what shocked me. Bulldog power slams him. All of a sudden, they have their argument. Bulldog's like, what are you guys doing? And then he tries to power slam again. Of course, it gets power bombed. At least that was done correctly, I'll say that.
Yeah. Bulldog went up well. Sid took care of him and not releasing him at shoulder level. Actually released him at chest point, which is what you're supposed to do to help protect your opponent. Because Sid actually did a good job there comparatively. He actually worked his gimmick, which is rare for him to do. He actually worked his gimmick.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into later about power bombs, but now we're going to go into Goldust with Marlena taking on Mark Merrow with Sable. You really cannot take Johnny B. Bad out of Mark Merrow, can you?
No, you cannot.
It was blatant here.
Yeah, Marlena was now here with Goldust. When Goldust first debuted, they did not put Marlena with him. She came in a few months later. For those of you who are not familiar with Marlena, that's Terry Runnels. She was much better later on, even though this was the best version of her.
I liked Alexandra York.
Yes, Alexandra York was much better, but the gimmick got killed. But Marlena was too stoic for Goldust, but it worked. And taking on Mark Merrow, the wild man Mark Merrow,
Oh, God.
with his at-the-time wife, Sable.
And he had a new move he wanted to debut there. Remember that? They were talking about the wild thing.
The ostrich salt. It was a shooting star press, but instead of being flat, and when he came in, he basically came in head first, so it was an ostrich salt. This match was boring. Goldust still didn't have much psychology. His psychology was get really close to you and rub himself. He didn't have a lot of psychology. Mark Merrow was never great outside of Johnny B. Bad. When somebody was upstaging him in the fruity department, he didn't know what to do with himself. And we got proof positive here. Sable can't act.
No.
She cannot act. She's not believable in being scared. Goldust taps her on the shoulder, and she immediately starts screaming and turns around. The Mick Foley thing coming out and calling her mom. That was more interesting than this match. I didn't care about this match. I was glad it was short, sort of, 1.5.
Yeah, I went 1 3/4. It was not that great. I mean, it was pretty bad. You know, I didn't like the fact that Foley was calling her mommy. I mean, the best part, I got to say this, Marlena was very relaxed during this entire role. I don't know if she didn't give a damn, but she looked better than Sable out there.
I liked the cigar, like she's being the director and was studying what was going on. She could have had a little bit more. She actually developed it a little later about jumping up. No, cut, do that again. Stuff like that she got a little later on. So they were still building it at this point, but she looked good out there. And I don't just mean physically, I mean she looked like she belonged.
And you could tell because, I mean, you could even see during this match how Sable kind of developed, the backstage kind of worked, because they would say she's, you know, an undercover chick, you know, like she was out there to sabotage people, and it looked like it later on down the road. Marlena was upfront about her stuff. She came out there, she was tough, she was wanting to work, and you could see it even in this match here.
Yeah.
Very early on. Move on to my 2-finger salute.
Is it for the match or is it for the
spot
before?
I got the whole thing.
The spot before?
Just
okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Because this is where I'm going to start to finish here, okay? This total was 40 minutes long, okay? We're going to start with the Ahmed Johnson spot here because we got to have Ahmed Johnson. We're talking about his kidney. Yes, he had to relinquish the title. We had that whole interview. That's where we get to see Kevin Kelly. Yeah, buddy. And then, just for, here, let's just have for shits and giggles. Let's have Farouk coming out looking like the gladiator with Sonny coming out here for an interview because that made no sense at all. You know, it was just horrible. I'm sitting here like, oh my God. You know, they're trying to talk to Farouk. Farouk's trying to sound like a badass. And you got Sonny over here hanging on Todd Pickengillis' shoulder, you know, and then she's trying to talk tough, and that was horrible. And let's continue on. Mark Henry, this is his debut to the WWF. His debut right here. To come out here, say hi. Mr. Perfect's like, why don't you shake my hand? We have to go through about 6-7 minutes of that. Shake his hand and shake everybody's hand. And, he was trying to be professional. I get it. Then, of course, Lawler's intro. We're in Ohio, and you expect this is heel Lawler. Feels a lot like Andy Kaufman from back in the days where he developed this, He comes out there, and he's got the Ravens shirt with Testaverde on the back. Yeah, 96, remember that. First guy to ever score a touchdown for the Ravens was Vinny Testaverde. Small stat. But yes, he's coming out there talking all sorts of smack, talking about how Art Modell has got a seat in the box office and everything, and I'm just like, really? And of course, then we got to break out the bottle. We got to have the alcohol, coming out here and talking about that, about Jake's drinking problem. I know Jake probably agreed to do it, but this was one of the stupidest storylines that should have been done on television. Anybody with an alcohol problem in real life should not be made into a storyline. That's dumb. And then you had Jake, coming out here at the very beginning. Here, let's break out the snake and let's attack him with that. We had that part. We had the match going on. And, of course, Lawler, hits him with a bottle of, I think, Jim Beam or whatever it was and gets the victory. But then you got the dumbest part here. This took 40 damn minutes. He's sitting here literally trying to pour the alcohol down. He does. And Mark Henry comes over and stops him, and he starts running off. Overall, this was a complete waste of time. If you're going to go back and watch this, just fast forward about 40 minutes. You'll be thankful that you did. And that gets my 2-finger salute.
You also forgot where he was pitching the opening pitch.
Oh, yes.
Where he's trying to get the pitchers to teach him how to throw a spitball.
Yes, I wanted to get the most of that, but I figured you'd help me out on that.
Yeah. Sonny can't talk. I'm here to get my man over, as well as my boobs, because I am Sonny.
That's basically it.
Farouk.
Oh, that match I gave 1.5 stars total.
Farouk came out looking good. I don't mind the modern day gladiator gimmick name, but it didn't work for Farouk. And
Farouk
of course,
Assad.
Well, Farouk Assad, and then it didn't work very well with the guy who was kicking ass in NXT, Karrion Kross, and then came to the WWE as a modern day gladiator. It didn't work well for him. You're 0-2 on Russell Crowe impersonators, Vince. Stop it. Stop it. Yeah, the Jerry Lawler, Jake Roberts now, it's obvious that's iced tea. That's the way it's always done when you use alcohol. But you're right. It didn't work when they did it with Scott Hall. It didn't work when they did it with Road Warrior Hawk.
Yeah, that was the worst of the three.
It didn't even work in the 70s when they were talking about the drinking problem that Harley Race had.
Yeah.
It's never worked. People don't want to see, when you suspend disbelief, they don't want to see the real world bleeding in there in something that is an emotional problem. Hopefully that will be the last time we ever have to see one of those.
Yeah, pay attention, story writers and bookers out there.
Yeah, this match didn't work. Harvey didn't do horrible, but this match was so overbooked with talking bits that you're right, they tried to do the Andy Kaufman thing, and Jerry Lawler, you have some funny moments, but you are not Andy Kaufman.
No.
I only gave it 1. And it's because it's going down the longer we have to keep talking about this, so can we move us on?
Wow, I'm amazed how much nicer I'm being about this show than you. But anyways, now I'm going to move on to my Quack Attack! Because this was the best match of the night. This, for reasons, I'm going to tell you why it was the best. I know you probably don't feel this, but I'm going to tell you why I feel this is the best match of the night. Because the story that Mankind and The Undertaker told in this Boiler Room Brawl. I love the things leading up to this show. I remember this as a kid, that Mankind was really trying to take out The Undertaker totally. He was the only person that was had that superhuman quality to him to be able to even fight The Undertaker at that point. Nobody believed Vader was going to destroy The Undertaker. They thought Mankind, as deranged as he is, might actually take out The Undertaker. I love the fact that they fought backstage. I know it was all pre-filmed and it looked good, and Foley taking the bumps off the ladder and everything else was great. But the twist, this is what gets my two-finger salute. This was really there. As a kid, I remember it. I'll never forget it. When Paul Bearer turned on The Undertaker, I was in a state of shock. I could not believe it. He gave the urn to Mankind there, and they formed a partnership, and it was just so, riveting to me. And then in the story afterwards, of course, leading up to extra stuff, was great after this match. I went a total, actually, of 3.5 stars. I enjoyed this whole ordeal. This led to, of course, the Hell in a Cell matches and everything else.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel as good as you on this.
He does not.
I'm going to quantify everything I say by they've never done another one of these again.
This is true.
Now,
No, they did. They did. Remember Triple H and Mick Foley went there and Santa Claus beat the crap out of them in a Monday Night Raw Boiler Room Brawl match? Yes, they did it again. I win.
I forgot about that, and I tried to blot it out of my memory. So do not make that our next reviewable.
Oh. Okay, I won't do it. I promise. That won't be it. But anyways, go ahead.
So anyway, this to me felt like it started out, the emotion and the suspense when it first started was great. And then it wasn't pre-filmed because they had technical problems they didn't
that's right.
They had twice the camera went out, and you could hear because they had TVs around that the crowd was actually upset that they lost the feed twice. Apparently, they turned the microphones off because we got no commentary, so this really felt like a long pull-apart where everybody forgot to run in and pull them apart. And then the few little commentary things we get was like Vince McMahon pushed the wrong button when he was trying to talk to the people in the back. Hey, our camera's not working again. That was one of the commentaries. So this was, I didn't like this. I liked how it started. I did like the ending, but they could have cut that 12.5-minute Boiler Room Brawl in the 3 minutes where they fought back through the curtain.
They were trying to make it realistic.
This was the same how you suspend disbelief as watching people who can't climb a ladder. I only went 2.25. Yes, I know this is one of those memorable matches. My memory, I hopefully gets wiped away, and I hope I get Alzheimer's that takes away just that tiny little piece of my brain so I don't have to remember this match ever again.
Well, there you go. See, we do have a difference of opinion sometimes. But now we're going to move on to the main event here. Shawn Michaels with Jose Lothario taking on Vader with Jim Cornette.
Yeah. Oh.
Let me first go off and say this before you go on your tangent. That power bomb was horrible, Vader. I know you had to take care of Shawn, but that was bad. That power bomb on the outside.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm going to go into that in all of my rant.
Go ahead.
For those of you who are huge Shawn Michaels fans, to include this guy before I got into wrestling, and to include this guy before he got into wrestling, Shawn Michaels is a dick. Shawn Michaels verbally abused Vader for months.
Send your hate mail to the Dr. Quack podcast.
Care of the important one. And you spell that IMPORTANT, important one. Yeah, Shawn Michaels so verbally berated Vader, telling him he was going to get him fired because Vader one time grabbed his hair. This is like 3 months ago on a house show. So Vader was so scared that he was going to lose his job that he basically went out there with Nerf gloves on. He powerbombed Shawn Michaels. You could actually see he released him 4 inches from the floor. The punches were weak, and because Shawn Michaels had to be the superstar and couldn't do anything to make Vader look good, like make him a monster so that you came back from behind, killing the monster. Jose Lothario didn't like this. Yes, Jose Lothario gets credited for training Shawn Michaels. He officially didn't. Shawn Michaels actually had a few other trainers before Lothario. And then when they brought Lothario in, You could tell they didn't want to be around each other. They didn't care. Lothario was there drawing a paycheck. And Shawn Michaels is like, well, if I kiss Vince's ass enough, he'll kiss my ass. I didn't even like the ending on this. Now, I understand what they were trying to do with the 3 endings. Vader had pinned Shawn Michaels in a tag team match. And then he won by countout. And then he won by disqualification. They were showing that basically Vader had Shawn Michaels' number.
Yeah.
That was what they were trying to do. It didn't work. Because Vader was so screwed up on this match that this is where kayfabe word of the day, we haven't done one in a while, the follow-through. The follow-through means when you call the spot to say move or to kick out and they don't do it, follow through and land the move that was supposed to be landed anyway.
Would you like to tell them what happened during that show?
It happened twice.
Ooh.
So I said Earl Hebner gets called on this one, but so did Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels went up to he called this long, intricate spot in the middle of a rest hold, where a chin lock, rest hold, and Vader forgot. It was like a 7 called spot. Vader forgot. Shawn Michaels was supposed to come off the top rope, and Vader was supposed to move out of the way of the elbow. Well, when Shawn Michaels figured out Vader wasn't going to move, he landed right next to him, kicked him as hard as he could in the side of the head, and then yelled at him so loud that half the crowd heard him, "Move! Move!" It was so unprofessional. Jim Cornette said he's lucky Vader didn't kill him right there. Shawn Michaels probably goes down in history as one of the most unprofessional spoiled brats in wrestling history.
Yes.
After that, Vader couldn't think right for the rest of the entire match. Like what was coming up after the super kick, Vader was supposed to kick out with the long 2. Earl Hebner knew the ending and what the ending was supposed to be. Vader didn't kick out and Earl Hebner pulled the 3 count. Again, follow through. It's not the referee's fault if the guy doesn't kick out. All the referee has to say is his shoulders were still down.
Right.
So
that happened in WrestleMania 2000 with Hardcore Holly and Crash.
it's happened a lot of times in wrestling. It's happened in Battle Royals where the guy who was supposed to win ends up eliminating himself, Randy Savage.
Hi, Randy Savage.
So this match, well, I liked the match for the most part. This match had a lot of technical flaws. Vader was upset. The unprofessionalism of Shawn Michaels. I couldn't go higher than 3 stars. Yes, Shawn Michaels is a great seller. He builds emotion in the crowd. It's too bad he couldn't do the same thing and make his wrestlers love him to make him look better.
Yes, I went 2 3/4 on this. This was not a great main event. It's not really a...
Compared to this show, this thing was awesome.
Yeah, compared to this show, it just... They could have flipped this, in my opinion. I would have rather seen the Boiler Room Brawl at the end. But that's the end of our show. And guess what, sir? You know, I've been thinking, because I know this was hard,
Hold
right?
on. Two things now. No 95 and no shows that are worse than 1995.
Okay, you know. But you did bring up somebody's name here. And I think he might actually be in this show here as we continue our tour into SummerSlam.
Okay, I'll look. Really?
You don't like this show? I mean, this is going to be great. I mean, remember the main event here? Do you remember the main event?
No, not off the top of my head.
Oh, God. Just
All I remember is after the last time I watched the show, I had a really bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
Luckily, I get to rewatch it, so if I was wrong, I will admit I was wrong.
Hopefully we won't see Naked Midian. I'm Dr. Quack.
Oh, and I'm the important one, Mr. Mayhem. I'm going to get the bleach and avert my eyes, oh Lord.
See you next time.